There was a couple of very in my good for 2013 column is what's happened with marriage equality. We just saw I think the 17th state
Mexico.
in the country, New Mexico, basically saying we agree. Gay people should have every right that straight people should have. So that's an upside. I would also say another positive is the continuation of these sort of one-day wildcat labor strikes that we're seeing, and there's just more of a sense. I mean, still, so obviously we don't have this sort of the flash of what happened during Occupy, but there's still a sense here that people are beginning to organize more, that they're not necessarily waiting for big institutions. They're just going forward with stuff. And
and I would argue also to add into what you're saying right now, I don't know if we had this in the list, but sort of people's greater support for liberty and freedom, as in gay marriage, and some of the things we're talking about. I think the first ever poll showing that 58% of people support legalizing pot, which I think is huge, because to me, not just because, of course, the party will be even more fun when we do our look back next year, right? I mean, we'll have Cheetos there and the rest. Not that any of us would do that kind of thing if we were legalized in our states, of course. But I think it's huge because, I think the tentacles of the war on drugs in this country, of what they stretch into, from private prisons to the corruption of our government and the rest, when you start seeing people, that's a start, because there's so many people out there who, if they did what Trey Raydell did, they'd be in a cell for probably 30 years.
Right.
And so the fact that the majority of people are in favor of legalizing pot in 2 states, obviously they didn't do it in 2013, but they did it in the end of 2012. I see that being one of the ways, hopefully, we loosen the grip of the authoritarians when it comes to the insane and insanely stupid war on drugs in this country.
And in terms of people fighting back against corporations, I mean, of course, 2013, I think, was not a terribly good year in terms of any movement on fighting global warming. Remains to be seen what's going to happen with Keystone XL, and it remains to be seen what's going to be happening, with the EPA just putting on some minor restrictions. But this we're headlong, sort of racing towards disaster in terms of global warming. The only thing that I can see a bright side on this, on some level, is that there were a lot of victories for people organizing against fracking. We saw a lot of the frackers move out, essentially the Marcellus Shale this year, because there was so much pushback by people who live in that area. And just I think it was yesterday in Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania said that home rule stands. In other words, local towns and municipalities can regulate and ban fracking in their local jurisdictions, despite the fact that Governor Corbett got a state law basically passed through that prevented them from doing so. So, that is a very positive step.
These are all related, too, in terms of environmental regulation for the future, and people coming together. It's being led by activists, because not enough is being done, obviously, in the government. Sure, a lot of it's the Congress, which is terrible, and the House, but not enough is being done by a variety of people, including the Obama administration. And it's good to see this. I just read a story, just a quick recap of, I guess it was a year ago or whenever it was, when that huge explosion happened in the town of West Texas, and nothing's been done since then to store anything safe. I mean, it's going to have to come from us. So these are all, when you hear about the fracking and the rest, these are all positive developments.
And, lastly, we had a couple other things we wanted to talk about, sort of accountability for the banks, which we haven't seen much, although thank goodness Jamie Dimon is no longer considered sort of Saint Dimon, I guess.
Well, ask Maria Bartiromo, I'm sure, to her.
We haven't seen.
She still has his poster above her bed, I'm sure.
We haven't seen any action on immigration. We've seen these sort of like horrible attacks on pensions across the country, both on a federal and a state level.
And the city level. But again, there's been some. You take the few positives when they tried to attack the pensions here in Cincinnati, it went down 80-20.
Yep.
So people are rising up and being made aware of what's going on. So there's bad in that it's even happening, but there's some good too.